Right, hello and welcome to our workshop for Chapter 2, Section 1 for social studies. We're talking today about the survival of the Eastern Empire. Now, we're going to go over, I'm going to sort of do this workshop as a lesson. So I'm going to go over the actual material, but I'm going to show how the material is presented in several different ways. So for today's assignment, you have three different places the information is seen in. So yesterday, you did the cold read. The cold read was just you reading this text. This was all the text that was included in that document that was posted on the Google Classroom. And you read through and you answered some questions, more of a response to informational text. So that's a good way to sort of get the information out in there in the first place, to read over the text. So that's what you should always do first. We won't always have a cold read, but we'll be able to go through. You should always at least go through the text and read it, because that's where all the information is coming from. All right, then we have two other resources. I'm going to go ahead and show you those. This will be the second time I try to do this, so let's see if it works. Screen share, there we go. Okay, so as you can see, you also have this PowerPoint, and you have this Prezi, Chapter 2, Section 1. So we have three different places the information is seen. Okay, so back to the book for a second. Most basic way. Anytime we have to go over a section, you can always look in the book. And I always preferred this way. I would always have classes where the PowerPoints Prezis weren't around, but the PowerPoints were there, and we'd go through the information. That was great, but I really like to read the information. And maybe that's the reason that I went and was really interested in history when I went into college. But for some of us, we may like to just get the actual text, to be able to read the actual text and understand the work. So we're going to start off with that. Now, our gate icon notes, the reason we do those gate icon notes is we're really trying to work on our note-taking. Trust me, trust your family, talk to anyone. The further you get up in your schooling, especially when you get to college, you are going to need to know how to take smart notes. So that's what we're going to be working on this entire year, working on making those notes. Now, the gate icon notes, I think, are brilliant, but we don't always have to do the gate icon notes. If you have another way of taking notes, that's fine, as long as it's an effective way to get the information down. So for now, in the beginning of the year, we want to use those gate icon notes so we can use those gate icons that OPA loves so much. So as we go through, I'm going to show you where these icons can be found. We're going to go through the material. We're going to have a great time. Okay, here we go. So first of all, as you can see up here, Section 1, the survival of the Eastern Empire. Nice big text up in the top. That's going to be our big idea. Now, if we look at our other two, right here, this says the Byzantine Empire. So it's a little bit differently, but down here it says the beginning of a great empire. Well, the book says the survival of the Eastern Empire. This one says the Byzantine Empire. You can tell it's around the same main idea. Let's go over to this one. Chapter 2, Section 1, survival of the Eastern Empire. So in all areas, we're pretty much having the same information, the same big idea. Okay? So let's now go back. Here we go, to our book. So that's our big idea. Now, as you move down, you'll see that the next thing you have to do is find the standard. Now, that's easy in our book. The standard will always be at the beginning of the section. So our standard is right here, Social Studies 7.1.3. And now you can also remember this because we're going to be going into our new gate icon project and our new multiple intelligence project. And you're going to want to look at these standards. Okay, so here we go, the next one. Describe the establishment by Constantine of the new capital in Constantinople and the development of the Byzantine Empire, with an emphasis on the consequences of the development of two distinct European civilizations, Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic, and their two distinct views on church-state relations. Now, if you did your cold reading assignment yesterday, you've already read through this, and you can look at the standard and understand that we're covering some of it, but not all of it. Describe the establishment by Constantine of a new capital. Yes, we absolutely read about that yesterday. And the development of the Byzantine Empire. Yes, absolutely. Now, the second part here where it says the consequences of the development of two different churches, right? Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic. We have not done that yet, but if you flip ahead a little bit to Section 2, the big idea is the division of the Christian church. You can see it's the same standard. So we'll cover that standard tomorrow. But for right now, we're covering the sort of the first part of this standard. Okay, so that's our standard. Yes, you go ahead and write that in. Let's take a look at our two other types where our information is going to be coming from. Let's look at the Prezi first. As you can see on the Prezi, let's go ahead a space and let's see. There we go. The standard is right there. It's the same standard. It has right there. It even has a paraphrase. Describe Constantinople and the development of the Byzantine Empire. Great. Let's go take a look at our PowerPoint. There we go, our standard. This standard only has the part of it that's important to us. Describe the establishment by Constantine of a new capital of Constantinople and the development of the Byzantine Empire. And again, you have an objective. You're talking about the development, the foundation of this Byzantine Empire. Okay, so we have three different pieces, but we're getting the same information from all three. Okay, and now back to our book. After you if you get your standard, the next thing you're going to need to do is find your language of the discipline. Now in the book, that's nice and easy. The language of the discipline is right here. There's high use words and key terms, but the key terms are the main things you want. So Constantine, pagan, moat, Justinian, Theodora, and absolute power are going to be our language of the discipline. Now, in the book, you can see each of them has their definition listed by page number. It's a little easier when we get to, let's look at our Prezi. I believe our Prezi has a good way of showing it. Okay, here we go, our language of the discipline. We have Constantine, the Roman emperor who moved the capital to Constantinople. And as you can see, Constantine, Constantinople, probably because he's in charge. Then we have pagan, someone who believes in more than one god. So the Romans before Constantine were a pagan society. They believed in many gods. A moat is a trench filled with water. And our next one is Justinian, is the emperor who sought to reconquer the lands lost to Germanic tribes in the western half of the empire. So those are our language of the discipline. If we go to our PowerPoint, you can see the language of the discipline is also right here. We have Constantine, pagan, moat, Justinian, Theodora, and absolute power. Okay. So we have all of these things down. I'm going to avoid going through the book so much because you read the book yesterday. I think everyone understands at this point how to use a textbook. So let's go ahead and look at these other two. Now remember, you can always use the textbook. If you like getting your information from there, that's definitely what I liked more. That's what you can use. But there's also these other resources. You won't always have all of these resources, but you will have some of them every single time. So let's take a look. All right, I'm going to continue on with the Prezi. We just talked about our language of the discipline. Now we're getting into our actual details where the flower is on our gate icon. So the first section is talking about power shifting to the east and the rise of this person called Constantine. Now, Constantine was the son of another person in the Roman Empire, and this person was the actual Augustus in the West. Augustus, remember, named for Augustus the Caesar, the emperor, and so he was the son of an emperor. He received formal education from Diocletian's court. If we remember from last time, Diocletian was one of the emperors as well. And while Diocletian was emperor, Constantine's father was made Augustus after Diocletian. Now, before Constantine's father dies, he declares support, saying that Constantine should become Augustus. But there was this other guy, Galerius, who was the Augustus in the east, because the Roman Empire was so large they needed to have control in both sides. He did not approve, and guess what? There was some drama, there was some fighting, and Constantine eventually became the new Augustus and the sole ruler of the Roman Empire. So that's how Constantine rose to power, because of his fight against this other guy, Galerius. Okay, now if we go back to our PowerPoint, you can see that we have similar thing. 324 AD, Constantine took power and laid the foundation for the Byzantine Empire. Now we're talking about what Constantine did. So this first, in the Prezi, we have a little bit more about how he became emperor, and this one goes right into what he did. So let's take a look at our PowerPoint now. Let's keep going through our PowerPoint. 324 AD, Constantine took power and laid the foundation of the Byzantine Empire. Now, it's not the Byzantine Empire yet, because it's still the Roman Empire. Now that Constantine took power, he was the one that changed the religion of Rome to Christianity. At the time, Rome was pagan, meaning they believed in many gods. They would sort of adopt the gods of anyone they conquered, anyone who was part of their empire. They just adopted those gods, and everyone could worship those gods. Now, after Constantine's decree, the new Rome is not pagan, but is based off Christianity. So the capital, there we go. The capital is Constantinople, city of Constantine. That guy doesn't have, he has his own name in his city. I wish I had one like that. And even though the city was now, the capital was in a new place, they were still Romans. They still believed that they were Romans. And this is still the Roman Empire for a little bit longer, but this is definitely the end of the Roman Empire. So, and then down here you can see why Byzantine was the name, is because it was near the city of Byzantium. Okay, so now he makes his new capital in Constantinople. The reason he moved his capital was that Rome was very stretched out. Rome was very large. It's hard to defend now because the empire had gotten large. It is such an old city. So he moved somewhere else. Where he moved was pretty much perfect for what he needed. So right here, and I'll show a bigger map of this in one of the other options too, but you can see Europe's over here. This is Turkey. And over here, this is Asia. And in here, there's a little tiny river of water, a strait called the Bosphorus Strait. So the Black Sea is over here. The Mediterranean Sea is over here. And then along here, this is where they built their city. It's located right there, right next to the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. And you can tell that's an important thing to do because guess how trade gets through here? So it'd be a lot of business that would be there. So let's go ahead and look at our president and see if we have the same similar information. So there you go. You can see Constantine. And then here we go, the new capital. So the decisions on the new capital, you can see that we have a little bit of extra information here. And then again, it comes down to Byzantium, which is eventually chosen to rename Constantinople, city of Constance. So we already have that information. We're getting it in two different areas. Now here we go, city of trade, like I was saying. The trade is big because that strait was right there. It's right on the path between both the land routes between Europe and Asia and also the seaway between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. So it's right in the middle of all that trade, meaning everyone comes there, meaning the news can get in and out quickly. It's a big, important city. Also, it's very defensible. It's on a peninsula. And a peninsula is a little bit of land that sticks out into the water. So on three sides, it's surrounded by water. On one side, there's land. So there's only one way to attack from, unless you came by sea. Constantine also had a wall built around the peninsula so that it is completely defensible. It was also built up on hills. The 7 hills in this area is where it was built, meaning it's very easy to defend. You can see a little image of it right here. So this is the strait that we were talking about right there. So this is the Mediterranean Sea, and you can see this is a peninsula, and this is where the city was. And you can see this both in your book, you can see it here, and there's even the image of it right here in the PowerPoint. So you can see it anywhere. If we go back to our Prezi, you can see along this whole line there is a wall, giant wall set up, so you can only attack it from this side unless you wanted to try and come from the sea. And you can see each of these little dark red areas are the hills that it's built upon. So it's a very good location. There's a nice image of it as well. You can see it's very sprawling, spread out. You can see some of the bigger buildings are down here with a lot of the housing and all of that other things down here. There's the walls of the city right there. You can tell if you were trying to come and attack that, you're a little person down here, you can't really get over that. Very defensible. Okay, and then, so now we're moving into our next section on that. Let's take a look right here and see if we're getting that same information in this PowerPoint. Easy to defend, yes, surrounded by the sea. You can see that there's defensible water around on every side. You can see the moats right here. So the moat, also the great for trade, right? It was a harbor, obviously it was between the land routes, the land trade routes and the sea trade routes. So you can see all of these things, India, Russia, China, Egypt, they all came through that area. And we have another image of it right here. You can see more of a bigger picture of Europe. So it's right in there. So you can see as you go through here, you can get into the Mediterranean Sea. If you go through there, you get into the Black Sea. A lot of trade routes, Anyone coming from Asia comes this way. Anyone coming from Europe goes that way. It's a very good city to be a part of. And then here we have a little bit extra something about how the empire was rich. New places, government buildings, stadium for chariot races called the Hippodrome. This is a very famous building we'll talk about in a bit, the Hagia Sophia. And then we can talk now about the last Roman Empire. So Constantine died, Rome was finally divided. Constantine was the last real emperor of a unified Rome. When he died, Rome was officially divided into the Eastern and Western empires. East Rome and Western Rome. So Eastern Rome, obviously the location was at Constantinople, the east side of the Roman Empire. Italy's over here, and this is Rome. So the Western Empire was still controlled by Rome. So Western Rome fell. Western Rome was very spread out, hard to defend. That's why the capital was moved. And eventually Western Rome fell, leaving just Eastern Rome. Now, we're both getting into this next part, which is Justinian and Theodora. So Justinian and Theodora, it's a very interesting story between these two. Justinian and Theodora both came from lower levels of society and rose up, and Justinian is remembered as one of the greatest emperors of the Byzantine Empire. So Justinian, as you can see here, born to a peasant family in 482 AD. He was adopted by Justin, his uncle, Justinian, Justin, and who was a member of the Imperial Guard. Now, as Justinian gets taken in, he starts to get educated and become more high society, you could say, and Justin, his uncle, rose through the ranks of his Imperial Guard until he became emperor. So Justinian's uncle is now emperor, and Justinian obviously was close to his uncle, and when Justin died, Justinian became the new emperor. Now, Theodora had a whole other thing going on. Theodora, who became Justinian's wife, her father was a bear trainer in the circus, worked in the circus. As Theodora grew, she became a performer in the circus. And Justinian, there's Justinian right there. Justinian married into that lower class of someone who worked for the circus, and it was allowed because of a law passed during his uncle's reign. And they became this sort of great empire, or great rulers of the empire for their time. They're remembered for that. So again, right here, similar information, not all of the exact same, a little bit more in the Prezi about who they were. Here is a little bit more just the information, which is he was the first great Byzantine emperor. He ruled with his wife Theodora, and what his goal was to do was to try and reconquer the Roman Empire. He wanted the Roman Empire back, very much like me. It's he really liked the Roman Empire and really wanted it back. So, as you can see right here, during his reign, he went and actually took over all of Italy, all of this side right here, into Spain even, and took back a lot of the territory. So he really did. He had a lot of military campaigns that went out to do that. However, it is so stretched out and so big, it was so hard to defend before, that over time it got chipped away again, and he really did not get his empire back. Okay. There's a little bit about some riots and things in here. I'm going to skip over that. You can go look at that if you want to, but I'm going to skip over that. Now, one of the other things Justinian did was he was really big with public works, and he tried to add a lot of stuff to the city to make it even better, to make it even more beautiful, and he really did. As you can see right here, this area right here called the Hippodrome. The Hippodrome became it was a chariot racing arena, and it was something, you know, it was a sport that people go to. People love sports. Everybody loves sports. And so it was another one of those things he built. You can see sort of an image of it right there. It's just something from Constantinople there. And before we go on to that, let's go ahead and move through this because we'll have a few other pictures of things that he did. So like I said before, over time, the lands were chipped away by outside attackers. Now, the one thing Justinian really is remembered for is creating the Justinian Code. And really, and we'll learn more about the Justinian Code as we go on through this year's curriculum, but the Justinian Code really does serve as a foundation for many modern legal systems. A lot of the stuff in medieval times and even up to today, a lot of the legal systems are based on this code that Justinian created. which is pretty impressive. It's a long time to have your code stick around. Also, he was, like I was saying, he was very big into public works and built the Hippodrome, but he also built the Hagia Sophia, which is this, and many believe is one of the most beautiful buildings in the world. I've never quite seen it in person, but I would very much like to. Okay, and then that's the end of the notes section for right here. And remember, when you get to the end, you're going to write your summary. You're going to create and answer at least 2 unanswered questions. Here's the big part: answer. We've been doing a good job coming up with some good questions, but you need to create, and then you need to look and research and actually answer those 2 unanswered questions. And then go through and explore some of those icons and decide. Now remember, rules. You could use the rules icon because, and you could give me some information on the Justinian Code. That's a set of rules. Interesting. But that's just one idea. You can do anything you want. Let's go back to our Prezi to finish that up. So then we're talking about Justinian's conquests, right? So he wanted the restoration of the empire. We talked about that already. There's a little bit more information about what he did. And then eventually he expanded greatly under Justinian, but it was eventually chipped away. We're talking a little bit about the Code of Justinian. Shared Christianity was the state religion of the empire. Blah, 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 blah. A little bit more information about the Code of Justinian. So if you're going to use rules, the rules icon as your extra icon, you can definitely use this area. Also research it a little bit. And then a lot of great buildings like the Hagia Sophia. We've seen that. And then again, it asks you to complete the section summary, the unanswered questions, and the extra icon. Now you can use all of that. You could also have done all of this through your book. So it's up to you how you want to take this information in. You don't need to look at all of them. You just need to find the one that works for you and get that information down. It's really good to practice taking notes. So go ahead and finish up your notes, and we'll move on. Great job. Go Buffs.